Scott, welcome. Another episode.
Yeah, it's great to be back with you.
How's the summer starting off so far?
It's been great. I'm at home in Columbus, and we've had a nice stretch of weather, and I really enjoyed it. And we had a wonderful golf tournament here recently. The Memorial was in town.
No doubt. Well, I was keeping a close eye on that one, so hoping it's going to improve my game, but not haven't seen that yet.
That's right.
But we're thrilled. We're thrilled today. You know, a couple episodes ago, we covered a lot of the policy changes that are going on with PBMs. And, today we get to learn how Optum Rx is getting proactive with transition to a more transparent sort of fixed fee model.
Yeah, really looking forward to the conversation. It's an amazing time, obviously, in the drug pricing, access, management, space. And we're really fortunate to have such a experienced and knowledgeable guest with us today as Kathryn Carey, president of Optum Rx, pharmacy benefit manager.
Welcome to the show, Kate.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, we are thrilled to have you here. And, for us, it's an honor. So we do appreciate it. We appreciate you spending the time with us. And if you don't mind, let's start, because we have a range of listeners. And if you don't mind, let's sort of start with your background, sort of your journey to get to where the position that you've had. I know you've worn several different hats, but why don't we start there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Kathryn Carey. I'm president of the PBM, so the pharmacy benefit manager. I'd say first, personally, I'm a mom of 3. So I've got a 19-year-old and twin 9-year-olds. And so you can imagine the spectrum of activities is pretty broad between the two, but they certainly keep us busy outside of work, and I enjoy every moment of it. Professionally, I really have had 3 chapters in my career. The first chapter was in pharmaceuticals. So I worked for Sanofi and Aventis and Schering-Plough and Merck, and really worked in the US and moved more in the global space as I was with Schering-Plough and Merck. And then I worked globally. So I worked in Germany, and I supported and led our Asia Pacific region. So had a lot of my first chapter in pharma, and I loved it, loved every moment of it. And we decided to move out west. And so I was in the New Jersey, New England area. We moved out west, and this is you could go and live anywhere. So looked for new opportunities out west and did a total pivot in my career. So I joined a company called Polaris, which is power sports. And I was really interested in doing something different outside of healthcare. And it was a great opportunity. The company was growing, and I had the opportunity to lead a space that I wasn't as familiar with. So supply chain and manufacturing in the finance area. I loved it. Again, it was completely different than what I had done. But towards the end, I would say a couple years in, I started getting that itch to get back in healthcare. And I had the opportunity, to seek out Optum and what Optum was all about. And I am just coming up on my 9-year anniversary here at Optum. And I've had various roles within Optum Rx. And most of my tenure, like even starting back to pharma until last year, has all been in finance. And so I've been in finance in different roles, from FP&A to business support. And then I led the PBM as the CFO. And then I led Optum Rx, which has the PBM and the pharmacies, as the CFO. And then last year I transitioned into the pharmacy benefit leader. So the president of the pharmacy benefit. So completely shifted to the business hat. I would say as a finance leader, I have always worn that business hat. So I've always incorporated business and, chief operating officer into the way that I manage the business. So that's a little bit about my journey.
That's a pretty exciting journey for you. And I think to go from a CFO role to a president role, also you bring such incredible experience. So help us understand, what are some of the areas of responsibility that you have as president?
It's pretty broad, but as president, the PBM, let me start with what the PBM is, and then I think the roles kind of go with it. But the PBM really delivers the pharmacy benefit for clients, and we provide access and affordability for prescription drugs. And so how we do that is really through a couple different teams. Of course, the account management team. So the account management team is supporting our 5,000 clients that we have. That team works with our clients every day on issues, really optimizing what they do. And they work really closely with our clinical team to make sure that what we provide through analytics and data, that we are managing expense as well as the needs of the client. So it doesn't always come down to affordability. Sometimes it's more on access. So if you think about new drugs to market, or a different formulary change. So I've got the account management, I've got the clinical, and a large part of my organization is really in the operations space. So as we onboard clients and as we adjudicate claims, a massive team that spans the globe on making sure it all happens. So my operations team is huge, and I am so proud of the work that we do, from calls to advocating to our PA teams. We every day we're working on behalf of the clients, but we're also working on behalf of those members and making sure that their experience is just out of this world, top notch.
Thanks, Kate. We appreciate that. And you made a big announcement a few weeks ago about moving into a more transparent fixed fee model where revenue's no longer tied to drug prices or prescription volumes. That's a big deal. It's a meaningful shift. What's driving the change?
We've been on the transparency journey for quite a while at Optum Rx, and transparency can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different stakeholders. But what our goals really are is to build trust with our clients that the revenue that the PBM is receiving is flowing through to the clients. And so we have a 18-part transparency commitment right now to our clients that they can understand all of the different revenue sources as well as be involved in some of the decision making that we make. So like our P&T committee, how we decide what ends up on the formulary. So we've had the commitment out in the market, but we've also heard from our clients is that they want something different, and they want something that shows them all of these fees, passes through all these fees for a more consistent payment to us. So a per member per month model. So what our new announcement is to pass through every source of revenue that we have for a per member per month fee. And that's delinking from the price of drugs. And as you know, that gets a lot of headlines on, the PBMs being incentivized by pricing of drugs. I can tell you we are working hard to bring down the cost of drugs, but that takes out that noise, and that consistent PMPM delinks us from any pricing changes. That was our big announcement for, we have a couple more I know that we'll talk through, but that was our big one on new pricing model changes. And I think one thing to be very clear on is we really want our clients to do this. We really want them to take this new pricing model, but this won't be the only pricing model that we offer. One thing that we have seen with clients is that they love choice. And sometimes they may want this model, but they need to get their internal systems or downstream clients aligned to the new model. So we'll be rolling this out in 2027. And I would imagine our uptick from clients will be 27, 28, 29.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, do you expect that to be the main product offering in the marketplace?
We do. And I think the product will have some flavor. So right now, the PBM takes a lot of risk in any agreement that we have. We have 3-year deals with our clients, and we take on risk of value that we're getting out of the supply chain. And what I mean by that is if we are guaranteeing a rebate or a network discount to our clients, we are guaranteeing that they improve every year. So we are guaranteeing that we're going to get more supply chain value from pharma manufacturers and more value from our pharmacies. And we are saying to our clients, we'll guarantee that. With this model, the guarantees are going to be different. We can't give you everything we have and guarantee that it will go up with taking on all the risk. And so part of the way that clients pay us is for taking on that risk. And so there'll be different flavors. And I imagine that our model will continue to evolve with feedback from the clients and what the clients want.
Yep. And as a former CFO, there must be financial implications both for your customers and as well for your company, as I would guess.
If I look at our client base, for the most part, no. There's going to be some clients where that PMPM fee is a little less than what they're paying today, and there'll be some that are more. We've done that evaluation, and believe me, we're making sure that for our clients as well as Optum Rx, I see this as financial neutral. I don't think any of our clients, even though we're passing it through, there's not going to be a windfall of value, but they're going to know exactly where the value's coming from and how much they're paying us on a per member per month basis.
And how about on the manufacturer or the pharmacy side? Will there still be rebates? And what about spread pricing, those kinds of things?
There will continue to be rebates. We're seeing, some variation in the market with lower WAC and less rebates. We have to follow the market here. We can't go a rebate-free world. And so we'll continue to, again, we have, we've publicly said we pass through 100% of rebates. And as our contracts mature, we will be 100%. We're 99% today. I don't see that changing with the manufacturers. What we will change is how we report the revenue from manufacturers. So today we report rebates at 100%, and we do that. We've also announced that we will report all GPO fees in the future. And so that will be a change in the marketplace. From the pharmacy perspective, we are pushing to go against spread pricing. And again, this is so that we are 100% transparent with the way that we reimburse pharmacies for the drug costs and how the clients, reimburse us for those drugs.
How does this compare to what we've seen from Express Scripts and CVS?
Optum Rx has been a leader in the market for transparency for years. We work across our colleagues to advance transparency, to build confidence. PBMs are really driving a lot of great stuff in the market, and we're all trying to drive great affordability for members. I can't really comment on what they're doing, but I feel really great with the fact that we are out in front on the transparency journey.
Yeah, great.
Kate, help me understand sort of the scope of this. Like, how many, I know Optum PBM is a large PBM, but help us understand, like, how many covered lives, how many prescriptions, how many doctors, like, what will be the impact of this, of first of all, of your organization, but then potentially of this new model?
We cover about 61 million lives. Those lives are, of course, commercial and government lives. And we have about 5,000 clients. We expect that over the next couple of years, that more like we are forecasting between 30 to 60%, and it kind of jumps up over time on those clients taking the model. From our government perspective, though, so that's on the commercial side, government works pretty much this way. I mean, we have an admin fee because of the regulations. We have an admin fee with our government clients, and the rest is passed through. So it's really that the commercial market will be behaving more like the government market.
And then in terms of like the number of prescriptions each year, by the way, thank you for, I am a customer as well. So
yes,
but how many prescriptions?
We have 1.8 billion prescriptions at Optum Rx per year. And, when I was talking about like the responsibilities of the PBM, we take every fill, every prescription so seriously. And that experience with the member, we've leaned in hard from a digital perspective, from a consumer choice perspective, and just really proud of like where we're changing the industry and really trying to make it more simple for members and for our clients.
That's great. And on that, if we could we sort of dive down into a little bit of, of that as well? Like, where will the impact be felt for these changes throughout the organization? Let's start with maybe the patients, because I wear the patient hat all the time. So let's start with the patients. From your perspective, how will this model impact them at, let's say, when I go to the pharmacy counter? How's it going to impact me?
This particular announcement is not going to impact the patients unless the clients choose to pass down rebates. And if that's the fact, then the economics of premiums and pharmacy benefits will change. Where the impact really is the transparency of the client and the services that they're purchasing. Think of it as like an itemized receipt of what you're getting from your PBM services with all the value streams that flow through the PBM. And we've got a range of clients. Some are super sophisticated and already understand and know all of that. And some of the reporting changes and announcements is that instead of them asking, we'll be showing them all basically that itemized receipt. So from a client perspective, they'll really understand, and then they can make decisions and choices from that. So I mentioned point of sale rebates. They can make choices on whether they want to spread their clients or not downstream. So the one thing I've learned, I've been in the PBMing, we joke about it. I've been PBMing for 9 years, is not one model fits all clients. There's not one thing that's going to fit 50, we have 5,000, I always say 5,500 clients. And so we'll continue to develop and, iterate on this. But this one is truly for the clients.
How will the community pharmacies, how will they potentially be impacted?
The community pharmacies for the new model. So last year we announced for the community pharmacies, we increased their reimbursement. And really what we're doing there is, as you guys probably are aware, but the mix has pretty dramatically changed from generics and brands over the years. And the old pricing models couldn't keep up, which meant pharmacies in general were losing more money than they expected because of really, GLP-1s is a big, huge driver of the mix and why it's changed. And so we changed the reimbursement for the independent pharmacies last year, where we increased that. We are doing all kinds of great programs to make sure that our independent pharmacies, stay in business, have other programs for us to, or with us, to drive momentum. And again, it's the care for the patient. Some of the independent pharmacists, as you know, in small towns, those are the ones that have the connection to care to our members. And so it's really important for us to support, there are a lot of independent pharmacists, but from a new model perspective, they will not feel the new model much at all, because that, again, is passing on or more aligning the reimbursement from how the clients pay us to how the pharmacies reimburse will be directly correlated.
Thanks, Kate. And now let's turn to manufacturers for a moment. How do you expect them to respond to this? Will formulary management change, or do you expect them to compete differently in the future?
No, our formulary design and development and product placement doesn't change. So we've been really transparent with our clients on how that works. We invite, I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but we invite our clients, prospective or current clients, to our P&T committee where we evaluate drugs. And then we place on the formulary. But the new model is not going to change the placement on the formulary. What it is going to change is, again, from that client lens, is we will be more transparent with all of the flow of funds that come from manufacturers, so that they understand the dollar that flows from pharma all the way to them. And as you know, not everything that you submit to pharma actually comes back. And so it also goes through rejections and all of the other things where they're cleaning up the claims. All of those variables are really important for clients to understand, their benefits and their cost of their drugs.
As a part of the announcement, you did also talk about some sort of digital tools and new efforts related to transparency. I love that transparency is one of your 3 major initiatives. Could you tell us more about some of the role of the digital tools and how they'll play sort of in the marketplace going forward?
Yes, I have a question for both of you before I
Okay.
answer it. So have you guys ever sat in the doctor's office and when they tell you your new script, you check the price of the script before you go to the pharmacy? Have you guys done that?
I did it this morning.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so one of our Shop My Script is a new tool that we are launching. And basically, after the script is written, you'll get a text message, and you click on the link and it will show you the price of the drug that you've been prescribed in your geographic area at different pharmacies. And sometimes there's going to be, a 5-cent change between the pharmacies. And sometimes there could be a wider variation, but hey, with the price of gas, you may not want to go there.
Right.
And so it will give you the options from a pricing perspective. And why did we do that? So there's really 3 things. So 80% of scripts are filled after after a doctor writes them or provider writes them. 20% are abandoned. And that 20% really are driven by 3 things. One is the member is not aware of the price of the script. And so part of this is not just shopping for it, but it's making the consumer aware of the price to them at the pharmacy. The second one is they don't know where the script went. You may have, like my doctors have all been wonderful on like, hey, we're sending it to here or there or wherever it is. But some people don't get that experience. And so they're not sure where their script went. And so they're not picking up the script. And then the third one is out of stock. And so this tool will help you with the pricing, where you want to go and where you want to send the script. And then the third thing is really just to make sure that it's there when you need it. So I'm excited. I personally haven't shopped a script. I have small kids. Well, they're not so small anymore. My 9-year-olds that sometimes need like an acute script here or there. I don't do a lot of shopping. And I think this is going to put more of that shopping experience into the consumer hands.
But help us understand how that because you have price-wise, you have price edge, you have savings. I mean, you have savings IQ. Help us sort through these options.
Okay. So this first one, which is Shop My Script, is really a consumer shopping tool on where you want your script to go. And it's visibility and transparency into the price of that. You may make a decision based on the script. You may say, hey, I like my local pharmacy in X and it's 5-cent difference. I don't really care.
That's Shop My Script. Got it.
Price Edge is our on and off benefit tool. So as you know, there are some drugs where they off benefit are less expensive than on benefit. And we've had our tool, Price Edge, for the last 3 to 4 years. I'm getting this, but it's been a while. That was developed basically from the feedback from our clients that they got a lot of noise from their members that they didn't understand. I'm paying for a pharmacy benefit and there's a cheaper price out there. I don't understand. And
right.
A great example of this was migraine meds a couple years ago. And, if it's a third of the price or half of the price, that really angers a member because, again, they're paying for their pharmacy benefit. So we developed a tool that basically scans the market. And whether it's on or off benefit, you get that lowest cost. And then what it does is it takes that cost on the off benefit, pulls it onto the on benefit. And that claim, like if it's off benefit, if I pick up that migraine medicine that I was talking to on an off benefit, like one of our off benefit vendors, we actually have one as well. But if you pick it off benefit, it never goes on to like your claim counts as a client. You don't know what your members are buying for drugs. So it pulls it all together. It pulls it on the benefit. I can tell you that a high percentage of the time your on benefit prices are better anyway. But there are those brands that are unique and specific that we just wanted to get rid of that noise and make the consumer experience better, knowing that they're getting the lowest cost out in the market. It's just like shopping for anything. When you see that like price point out there that you want, we're just bringing that into the benefit. So that would be Price Edge. We've got Shop My Script, and we all have these fancy names for naming these across the PBMs. Then we have Price Wise. So Shop My Script is an Optum Rx benefit that just Optum Rx members will have. Price Edge, which is bringing the off benefit onto benefit. Of course, that's a product that we have. Price Wise is something that is not just unique to Optum Rx. So Price Wise is, let me give you the why. So the why for Price Wise is some of our clients wanted to integrate some of these pharmacies that show the breakdown and the cost of all the components of the drug. So the acquisition cost, the shipping cost, taxes and fees to the total cost. And we didn't have a solution for that. But what we were trying to do is bring some solutions that were out in the market and integrate them onto our benefit. And they've been a little bit harder than we expected. It's just a different flavor of seeing your pharmacy cost.
So, Kate, what about Savings IQ?
Great question. So everything I've talked about so far is on the PBM, different products that we have on the PBM side. As you know, as part of Optum Rx, we have a PBM, and then we have a whole set of pharmacies. And one of our pharmacies is our specialty pharmacy. And so Savings IQ is a tool that our specialty pharmacy uses to scan the market for financial assistance or financial benefits or assistance across the US. And that can be anything from a grant to, some assistance that the manufacturers are giving, but it's basically looking and scanning for the market so that when the member picks up the drug, it's the lowest cost possible. And as you know, specialty drugs are extremely expensive. Last year, we helped save our members, and this is a little different, our members versus our clients. So this is going to the members. We helped them save over $870 million by this tool, scanning the market. The other one that I talked about, and I'm a numbers girl, this finance thing will never get out of me. But when we think about Price Edge and how it's helped our consumers, we've saved our consumers over $270 million by, again, doing that on and off benefit comparison.
Back to Savings IQ, Kate, how does that interact or not with copay accumulator and maximizer kinds of programs?
Yeah, it's brought right onto the benefit. So it's part of the whole profile of that member and brought in part of how they get to their deductible, et cetera.
Yeah. So, okay.
What I love about this company is how quickly we innovate and introduce new things to the market at scale. And if anyone always, family, friends, when anyone asks me why I'm at Optum Rx, it's really driven by the fact that we can innovate and quickly get scale and uptake from that.
Yeah, with 61 million members, you certainly have scale. And
Right.
I think the other thing that you've done, not only with the announcement just recently with your new model, but also in the past, is you've been able to innovate when it comes to capping some of the costs for the for members. So the Vital Medicines Initiative, I know, has been well received. Could you explain to our listeners what that is and how that works?
Yeah, so our critical drug affordability program is something we launched from a year's perspective, probably 3+ years ago. But we identified a set of drugs that we wanted to make sure that our members, as well as members that are outside of Optum Rx, had access to with a capped expense. So the biggest one being insulin. We've got a $35 cap on insulin. And why that's important for us is anytime a member goes off these critical drugs, it causes downstream impacts. And so the longer we can keep our members healthy, it relieves costs in the system that keeps them alive longer. But we've done this across the board we continue, not across the board, but we continually evaluate across the board of drugs on what should be on the list and where we have caps. And I'm super proud of what we've done. We've gotten a lot more adherence to drugs based on, some of the lower costs of the drugs.
Thanks, Kate. And we know that Optum also made news recently by eliminating some of the reauthorizations for many of the chronic disease drugs, which is a great thing for patients and for doctors as well. Is there anything else ahead for Optum Rx? How's that going? And is there anything else ahead for Optum Rx that will help to eliminate some of the friction?
Yeah, absolutely. When I think about our three priorities are affordability, transparency, and experience. And so when you think about experience today, where there's a lot of friction in the system is around PAs, right? You're going to the doctor, you want your drug, and then all of a sudden you can't get your drug. And so on the reauthorization elimination, we are up to about 270 drugs that we've eliminated the reauthorization for. So we've done a tremendous amount of evaluation on drugs that they were on that annual reauthorization list, but the member was going to get it anyway. By eliminating that was about a little bit over 30% of our total drugs. think about all of those conversations for that member that's like, I've been on the drug for
Right.
5 years. Why am I going through this again? I just want to keep consistent, because you know what happens when you have an reauthorization is some of that friction. You may lose a member that really needs to be on the drug and stay healthy. And so a lot about this is continuity of care and making sure we do this, as well as reducing friction in the system. So I'm really proud of it. When I think about what else we're doing, we about a year ago launched PreCheck MyScript. PreCheck My PA. We also have PreCheck MyScript, but PreCheck My PA, which is a tool for physicians to use to check your PA before you leave their office. And the adoption has been tremendous, but what that's doing is it's taking the PA process, which can take up to 8 hours to go through, down to less than 30 seconds. And the doctor is having a different relationship with the patient, because in the doctor's office, they know whether that PA is going to get approved or not. So we've been rolling this out to health systems across the US. And, it's interesting. Our clients want this to happen as quickly as possible, and have been some of our biggest advocates when we're talking to health systems, because their members are the ones that are going through this process. So I'm really excited about that. In PA in general, we are making a lot of advancements. Again, we want to make sure that the right script gets to the right member at the right time. But can we make it easier? Can we make it more seamless for the consumer, is where we're really focused.
That's some good stuff there.
Yep.
As you know, I'm sure you've listened to all of our podcasts over the years, but that's been a big pain point, and so that's great. If any progress you can make there, I know will be well received in the marketplace.
All right, Kate. Well, to wrap up, we always give our listeners a final gift, and that is you get the magic wand. And so we ask, if you'd had the magic wand for the day to improve access and affordability for patients, how would you use it? What's your prescription for better access?
No one single company is going to solve access. And so, like, when I think about if I had the magic wand, we'd all start working together a little bit easier. I mean, a little bit more, so that it's easier for members, for clients, for pharma, for pharmacies. If I think about all the constituents, that magic wand would make us really work together a lot harder. Not on just the simplicity, on the innovation. We work really well together right now, but I can tell you that, like, if we really wanted to leapfrog where we should be, and it's taken a long time. I mean, I was in pharma and came to PBMing, and it's a complex system that we operate in. And the only way to make it more simple is really to change the way and the partnerships across the board of all those constituents. So that would be my magic wand moment.
Yeah, great.
That is great. I will say that you are the first person to have mentioned that as your prescription for better access.
Yeah.
And that is a great one. That really is. So with that, we then summarize, see how good of listeners we are, right? And
Okay.
we want to sort of, if we could, sort of leave our listeners with sort of some of the key points that Scott and I picked up, and so hopefully you feel that we've done a good job. And don't worry, you can jump in and correct us at the end.
Okay, good. This is a good quiz.
If there's anything we've missed. So, Scott, you want to go first? You want me to go?
Yeah. Sure. Happy to, Mark. I'm so glad we got to talk to Kate. And I'm optimistic about the future. I think, we had the conversation with Bill Sorrell about sort of the DC policy direction and so on, and then now this one. And generally speaking, there's a push towards good things, more transparency, more direct pass through to clients, the simpler PMPM kind of cost structure, fewer PA reauthorizations that Kate mentioned. That is a big deal. All the digital tools that'll make this easier, to make the PAs easier and faster, allow the patients to shop, understand their benefits, and manage that, and all those things. So I'm very optimistic. I think a lot of things in the industry right now are moving in a good direction on the pricing and access side of the ledger. Although that, as I say that, I am conscious that, Bill cautioned us that, hey, the policy changes are kind of the beginning of the change, and what really matters is the long term net effects, and that remains to be seen. And so I am aware that that's the case here as well, but I like what I hear, and I'd love to see this play out fully to a system where manufacturers could put one price into the market and make it available to all the PBMs, all the payers, all the pharmacies, all the actors that want it. And as you know, from my perspective, I think ideally that price, the best price, should go to the plans and others that offer the best access for the patients. And so they'd ultimately be the beneficiary of that. So fingers crossed, my hope is that that's the way this plays out.
That's great. I'm going to add to that the what you said also. First of all, again, that she would join us is great because this is such an important topic. And I'll start with like sort of the corporate priorities. I couldn't have picked three better priorities for that organization in terms of affordability, transparency, and the experience. And so from that standpoint, I just think it's great. I think also the one of the overlooked things that I don't think people or we've spent enough time on, and I know we did with Dan Mendelsohn talking about the role of employers, and that is that the clients make a lot of these decisions, right? And so patients sometimes point the finger at the PBM or doing other things when in fact it was your internal CFO and benefits administrators
making some trade-offs.
Making some trade-offs. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's a very important sort of nuance that I don't think we've spent enough time on. I think the other thing that's sort of interesting, we didn't really sort of dive in too deep, has she mentioned how the benefit mix has changed over time, right? Like we really do have a different sort of set of drugs today. Like, you and I've been doing this long enough to know that originally there was a lot of generics on the benefit, right? Now I think, she's probably got price edge with a lot of the generics on that on off because as she said, she's saving $270 million. So, I think that's fantastic. And then I'll just finish with if I could, and this is where I think you and I are helping as well, which is this whole concept of working together, right? Like the fact that she would come on the show, the fact that she would, help to sort of change the dialogue or have the dialogue to sort of continue to improve things, as you said. We're all hopeful that this is the beginning, and so I think it's great that that's her prescription for better access is to work together. Because I know I raised my hand, I know you raise your hand, that we would love to continue to be at the table to help see these changes through.
Yeah, very fitting.
How did we do, Kate? We do okay?
You guys did so good. It's an interesting. So you did so good, and the one thing that I think about that I may not have articulated, is the role of the PBM for clients is so critical because the amount of relationships that happen in the system. So we've got 170 manufacturers, which have multiple drugs, as well as 60,000 pharmacies. There's no client that can do all of that on their own, and also understand the clinical benefits of the drugs. And so maybe if I was thinking about when you were replaying you were awesome about what I said, but I think I missed that aspect of like the role of the PBM. Again, it's to drive affordable care to that member, but the complexity in the space really requires someone that can use and leverage their scale to drive down cost and create access, and then drive clinical programs that can really make a difference for clients. I would just say that I think I missed it, and I just wanted to put it in your wrap.
Yeah, that's great. The complexity has been such a recurring theme here now. I think that Mark and I are almost immune to noticing it at this point. But well said. Those are all important points as well.
No, absolutely. And we also realize you got 61 million members, right? You have 5,000 clients. Like those are big things that you're doing. You're really a big part of the marketplace. And so that's it's enormous what the impact has, or that you have on the market. So, but again, we're thrilled that you joined us. We are thrilled with your announcement, and we're glad you joined us to share more about that and to help our listeners to better understand that. And we hope you keep the door open, and we might be able to have this dialogue continue at some point in the future.
It's been great. I loved a word that you guys used as you were wrapping, that you're optimistic. Obviously, Optum is in there. We're really optimistic too. And thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Kate.
I'd like to thank Kate Carey for joining us, the president of Optum Rx Pharmacy Benefit, and of course my incredible partner, Dr. Scott Howe, and for all of our listeners. We continue to be so appreciative of everybody. Our audience is growing. We didn't even believe it, but it is, and we're thrilled that everybody's joined us. And if you have any input on future episodes, you can reach Scott and I at comments@prescriptionforbetterAccess.com. Thank you, everybody.